One refinery south of Edmonton is going to process over 1 million tons of canola feedstock this year. That is more than 10% of Canada's entire canola crop at one plant. The US renewable fuel mandate needs another 2.7 million tons on top of that. Don't even get us into Indonesia. Actually, we're going to get into Indonesia because they have a 50% blend requirement. Bada bing, bada boom. This is not just a Canadian story. In the 2000s, my dear friends, corn ethanol legislation turned a $2.50 crop into a $9 crop in under a decade. The farmers who read that curve early did not just survive, they built equity out of it. Today we ask whether canola is about to run the same play. This is Growing the Future Productions Live. We are live on YouTube right now. Please like us. Please, I beseech you. Please like us. Subscribe to us. And if you grow canola or you got some prairie land, send this to someone who needs to see it before this show is over. My name is Dan Aberhart. I run Growing the Future, Western Canadian Agriculture's foremost live briefing platform and its foremost AI for ag training platform. I grew up alongside a farming operation that today runs over 20,000 acres, not too far from our esteemed guests as far as the Saskatchewan stone's throw goes. Everything I do lives at growingthefuture.ca. So here's the tension underneath today's shows, folks. A lot of people still picture canola as food. A field in the sunset, food to table, but a growing share of it is not going anywhere near a plate. It is going into fuel. That's not a scandal. It might be one of the best things that have ever happened to this crop's economics, but it means the romance and the reality have split, and today we're going to find out by just how much they have split. That question got a lot bigger, and that's what this show is about. Folks, we got the Q&A, and the chat are open. It's wonderful to see you all. Some familiar faces, and please give our honorary guests some really challenging questions. I'm looking forward to this discussion. Oh, and we've got some great regulars. I can see you all. And Ryan Bonnett, I'm going to bring on here to ask some really intelligent questions here shortly as co-host. But the Q&A is open. The chat's open. We're going to do a few polls as we roll along, and I want to thank my key partners that make this channel possible. That is Hammond Realty. We got Shaun as a panelist today. We've got Tim in the audience. So Tim's going to be asking some really interesting, challenging questions. M&P supports this channel. God bless them. Crop Aid Nutrition, Soil Health. Good for the cattle as well as the grass. Keep that in mind. Grip. Get your QR code scanned and keep track of everything on the farm. My good buddy Jeff Bennett runs Bone Trail Originals, amazing gift company, and Convergence Conference 2027. I hope to see you all there. I'm going to give you guys a document that's got all of that. So let's bring these panelists in without further ado. Firstly, this all sprung from a conversation with the legendary pride of Flaxcombe, Saskatchewan, Shaun Wildman. Good morning, Shaun.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Amazing. Shaun traded grain for the Seaboard Corporation before he ever sold a farmland specialist to Hammond Realty. They got a lot of crazy stuff on the go, as you might know. Prairie families call him when it's time to buy or sell the most important asset of their own. Just talk about farmland. He owns it. So he financed a piece 5 years ago at just 2%. He's financing that same land right now at over 4%. He's living these numbers. He's talking about climate change, yields doubling. It's just cats and dogs living together. It's just going wild out there. So, Shaun, you're going to wow us with your intellect and your research and your knowledge today. I can't wait. And quick Dick McDick coming live from Blue Balls Studio.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Actually, it's just a backdrop that I've got. I'm nowhere near Tufnell right now. I'm at an undisclosed location where nobody can find me.
Well, I need to upgrade my subscription to Zoom so I can have such a cool background as you.
We're gonna patent it. Yeah.
Give me some of that IP, man. I want your IP. But I mean, quick Dick McDick. What can we say? First time on the show. I'm so excited to have him. Saskatchewan farmer who spent 16 years out in the Alberta oil field. came back to the farm in 2019. He's built one of the most recognizable farm voices in the country doing it. And I seen him at the Roxy do his live show. It's just brilliance, man. It was great. I really appreciate it. So thanks for coming on the show. I'm going to get right into it here with, to me, is like one of the bigger questions around this. And maybe we'll start with Shaun, and then we'll get Quick Dick to riff on it. And then I'll bring my buddy Ryan in here quick. But fundamentally, folks, is canola food or fuel? Which should it be? Does it matter? Shaun, what's your take on this?
Well, I suppose some people are passionate about this and they maybe don't like the idea of turning food into fuel. But if you look at it, there's really collectively in the world, there's always enough food. It just happens to be that, it isn't necessarily where it needs to be. But there's no, if there's a concern about turning food into fuel and making food unaffordable, here's what I looked at. When you and I talked about this, Dan, I looked at it and I said, how many calories are there in a bushel of wheat? And how many calories are there in a bushel of canola? And how many calories are there in a bushel of lentils? And what does somebody need? They need 2,500 calories a day on average. There's about 100,000 calories in a bushel of canola or wheat or lentils. And so basically, you convert that into days of food. We got about 40 days of food for each bushel. Not that you're going to just eat a bushel of canola, but to simplify it, and so what does that work out to? It's $16 a bushel, or for lentils or canola, it's, I don't know, 40 cents a day, right? Like, so your actual cost of food for the raw product that the farmers are producing is minuscule. There's no affordability issues with food regarding the portion that the farmers get. So I don't know if we want to turn it into fuel, if we think it's good for the environment, if we think it's good for energy security, then let's go ahead and do it. There's no ethical issues and there's no affordability issues.
I wanted to get Quick Dick's McDick's take. I've never had somebody on the show with such a name, but I'll go to Quick Dick on how he looks at this too. But I'm wondering, do you have the equivalent units of output for energy? I love that with the calories. I've never heard that before. That's really interesting. So, do you know the energy output equivalent of a bushel of canola in kilojoules or any other metric? Or Shaun?
Oh, sorry. Do I know the energy output of a bushel of canola?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about 100,000 calories. Like you couldn't digest the meal, but you're going to get 40% oil. The oil has twice the energy density of versus carbohydrates, right? Fat versus carbohydrates. So you got nine calories per gram of fat, which is canola oil, or you have 4 calories per gram of carbohydrate or protein, and it works out to roughly the same. According to my research last night, the digestible energy, or the energy, is about 100,000 calories per bushel.
Whether it's in like Blue Ball's tank, like in a diesel or a jet, what's the horsepower output, or how do you? Can you quantify
that is
that
something
too?
I can't tell you. I'm not that savvy on things like that.
Quick Dick, over to you. What's the energy output on a bushel of canola?
I don't have those kilowatt hour numbers off the top of my head, but I think it's a really cool take on what Shaun's talking about, putting it into a calorie perspective kind of thing, because it's a great way to look at it. I think really that maybe even touches on the surface of the narrative that exists out there right now of seed oils being something unhealthy to eat, depending on what channels you subscribe to and who you watch on social media. But I think that for the amount of canola acres that we have specifically here in Saskatchewan, I mean, we got, almost 24 million acres of canola that's getting planted here this year in Saskatchewan. And I think we have more capacity than we would ever need to service any markets that we need for people that would actually need, be it canola as a food stock or canola as a fuel stock. I mean, we've got more than enough to service a lot of it from here in Saskatchewan. So I think it's great to be playing both sides of the market, because we'll produce more canola seed in Saskatchewan alone than I think anyone would ever eat throughout the course of a year. So we should do something else with the rest of it. And if we can put it into low carbon fuel, into a fuel market, I mean, it's called diversification. And whether we like it or not, farming's a business. It's a way of life for a lot of people, but I mean, it's a business, and it's really important to be able to service both markets as far as I'm concerned.
Love it. Well, I'm going to bring on Ryan Bonnett here to ask some intelligent questions. He's a grain marketer by trade. And we had a conversation happening here. The chat's popping off. Good morning, Cease Vandenberg. Appreciate you coming on board. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat. Darren Kennett is saying 1 bushel of canola yields about 9 to 11 liters of biodiesel. So I guess that would get you 100K in some units, eh? So depends what you're driving. Dad's always measuring these things. So as far as the poll went here, it didn't seem like it's a huge issue for the audience. 17% said fuel, let's stop pretending otherwise. 6% said food, that's what it's for. So it was a very small amount said only food. 67% said both, and I don't see the problem. 11% said I love me a little diesel on my salad. So no problem there. But do you guys worry? Is it a big issue now for the seed oil thing, or is that like a lot of this sort of mind virus stuff that's sort of come and gone? It's not as in vogue. Like, quick, Dick, do you think people are still worried about the seed oil thing as much?
I don't think as many people, and I think it's a big thing where messaging can get away from a lot of different sides of the debate on social media specifically. If just quickly back to, we were talking about 9 to 11 liters of biodiesel. I think you get 9 to 11 liters of actual oil out of a bushel of canola, if I remember my numbers right. But this is besides the point. But it's messaging, and I think that's when you get out messaged in the game, that's where things really get away from things. There was even if you look at something completely different, but like just for comparison, if you look at Canadian Food Inspection Agency, that was doing a little bit of different traceability thing with livestock in Canada. The messaging got away from them really fast of what they were actually trying to do versus what became of it. And I think it's like you say, it's a mind virus thing that exists, especially with the speed that social media runs at nowadays. It's very hard for organizations to keep the proper messaging going on before it gets away from them and nobody can get it back into the bottle, right?
Ryan Bonnett is saying, I can add some history and economics to this conversation when you like. Sure, let's. Ryan, are you there?
Yeah, here. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you all right. We just can't see you. But
Okay,
before we get, that's okay. We know you're a handsome guy there. We'll put your stunt double into the YouTube.
All right. Well, the thing I might add into this conversation, just so everyone knows on a history standpoint, not sure everyone knows this, but like the US uses probably 30 to 40% of their corn every year into ethanol. And it was originally done as a, reduced carbon emissions, green energy type of business, but it's quickly become a place where the US has a domestic use for their massive corn crop. So a couple reasons why they did this, and here's, again, this is just my opinion on why they're pulling out all these biodiesel policies as they are now, is in the last 10 or 15 years, Brazil has overtaken them in terms of soybean production and area, and they keep growing every single year. So the smart people in the US, again, in my opinion, are using these policies as a way to have a domestic consumption for their massive crops. So some things that, I think Shaun said it here earlier. I'm not sure if Shaun or Dick said it earlier. Like, we do produce a massive amount of grain around the world. There is enough food. It's just, where do you put it and who can pay for it? So if you look at the origination of some of these policies, in my opinion, the US are looking for a domestic place to be able to use the massive amount of grain that they produce, because they're losing market share to Brazil, to places like China. And if you follow the money, like somebody taught me this a long time, follow the money. That's where the money's going.
That's bang on, Ryan. It's a good point. And like, even just recently here with the new rules regarding biodiesel in the States, like, I mean, when you're looking at here, it's 12 cents less per pound that an organization would get on renewable identification numbers if it's product that they're using, say canola, that's sourced from Canada. It's because it's not local stock. Like, it's a 12 cent per pound loss that they experience just because they're sourcing it from outside of the US, right?
Exactly right.
No.
Exactly right. Now,
Shaun, what's your response to that?
To which part, I guess, am I responding to?
Any part of it that sticks
And
out to you in particular? Ryan's little treatise on history there, or reasons why?
yeah, it's I don't know. There's a political component to the renewable fuels, and there's all sorts of reasons that people are doing it. Regarding, I think the gist of it is what got me talking about this, and the headline of your of the invite that you sent out for this podcast is there is growth in the demand for renewable fuels, and it's huge. The actual scale of this stuff is massive when you convert it into kind of food equivalent. So I'm actually, yeah, there's enough food and there's enough canola and there's enough canola oil, but my bias is that if you look at these changes in legislation and the continuing changes in sort of the trend, it's all it's pretty friendly values, and maybe we're going to have a giant crop in Canada, and we'll have an extra couple million tons of canola, and that'll offset most of the increased demand. But holy camoly, when you look at these, the other thing is not only the US renewable fuels legislation, but when you look at like this thing that I told you about Indonesia going from a B40 to a B50, so a 50% blend requirement in their diesel, that's another 3 million tons of vegetable oil feedstock. So if you look at converting that into how much oil we produce with the Canadian crop, I mean, it's like over half of the Canadian crop would be required if we were the feedstock for biodiesel in Indonesia. So there's some positive things going on with these trends for the farmers.
Guys, I think
It,
canola is responding to our conversation right now. Like the
it
price,
better.
it's
It's
actually
about
going up.
time.
Holy shnikes, guys!
Yeah, I don't
But
know if I'm super bullish today because a lot of this is known, but I think it's just if you
yeah,
put it into context, it just longer term, the next couple of years, it makes me friendly. It makes me happy if we want to increase canola acres in Canada because, margin isn't so great growing wheat or lentils or whatever. We've got an outlet for it, right?
mhm,
Charts going up though. Charts going up today. Like
yeah.
the
Which
high
so like
correlation.
yeah, which is and Sean's bang on here too, right? Like I mean, we're in Saskatchewan here alone. Like we're by far the largest canola producing province here in Saskatchewan, right? And I mean, just if we're going to produce an expected 13 million tons of canola out of Saskatchewan here, I mean, like we will process locally 10 million tons of that. And like that is what we want to see happening within agriculture. We've got Cargill that just opened up a new processing hub down in the transportation hub in Regina there. And we've got LDC in Yorkton, Richardson in Yorkton. Everyone's doubled capacity over the last couple of years. Like this is what we want to see happening with our crops, regardless of where it's going once it's processed. We need to see this happening and more processing and added value locally because that's what makes provinces like Saskatchewan grow, and makes communities like ours have jobs and people that are going to live there. And the more we can do close to home and then sell it to the world, the better. It's the exact same mantra that I try and preach with oil and gas, with everything else that we produce here in the beautiful country of Canada. We need to bring it to a finished state here in Canada to see the actual charge to our economy out of it, right?
Ryan, what's your take on that? And there is a big crop out there. You were saying it yourself, despite some of the challenges we're seeing in areas, unfortunately, including at home, had a struggle to get it. And you're not far from where we're at in Langenburg too. Quick,
Sorry.
Dick, you're
Yeah.
saying the numbers are 3% unseeded, but the bump in yield, and we got everyone knows Dallas on the call. He says on YouTube, he says, I'm a big fan of turning grain into fuel. The world runs on oil. Crude or canola didn't care. But he also said, Quick Dick, to tell you that the North has to drown for him to have a crop. So
Hey, we got big snorkels here, Dallas.
get your Quick Dick snorkel at the Quick Dick shop.
Well,
We'll have to add that to the online store, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's not wrong. He's not wrong. I mean, especially like in the Parkland area here in Saskatchewan. I mean, we are like there's a lot of lakes in this region, and I mean, obviously, like we do get generated a little bit more precipitation than most other places. And yeah, like Dallas's area, I mean, the Palliser Triangle in that neck of the woods, I mean, they've been challenged for what, the last 7 years with drought. And I think unexpectedly, a lot of guys are getting some rainfall down there this year. And now the question is, did you put the groceries down for it? Because if you go so many years without getting any rain and then you start pulling back on your inputs a little bit, then all of a sudden you get the water to grow 50 bushels, but you didn't have the groceries down for it. Then where do we land at, right? You're always chasing your tail in farming, and it's just going to be interesting. This has been a problem with crop numbers that have come out over the last few years. I mean, it's always great to predict what we're going to have right now, but I mean, we are a long ways from anything being in the bin. And even just with this last rain event that we got here, I mean, sure, there's 3% that's unseeded in this area, but the numbers being in between here and Swan River, Manitoba, with everything that's happened all the way down in the Dauphin, like, what did we lose? We started off with 3% unseeded, and then did we see overall a 5% loss on acres because of flooding? Like, those numbers aren't in yet. They're not going to be in for a long time, right?
Yeah, Ryan, you had a contribution there?
Yeah. Quick D is bang on right in terms of all that stuff. The other thing I'd like to add on, or just add on to his previous comment there, is that homegrown domestic production processing would help our overall Canadian productivity. And I really do think that we have to have the courage to build here in Canada. A lot of these major projects that are being spoken about, this would be one of them. All the crush capacity has been increasing because of these biodiesel policies. Why can't we produce more of our own ethanol, more of our own biodiesel? It'd be a great homegrown industry to have in Saskatchewan, Alberta, Manitoba. You pick it. And I'm almost indifferent to where you put it up, but let's put it up. Fully supportive of all those type of things. It's only going to help the overall Canadian economy and everybody's prosperity. In terms of the crop size, an old adage, rain makes grain. So right now, I would say that we're looking at having a large crop. But I learned a lot more by watching your video the other day there, quick D, on that, how bad it is up there. I got clients up there as well too speaking about it, and I think we're a few weeks away from truly knowing how much damage there's done. And a hot July can really hammer canola yields as well. So depending on how hot we get is another impact to look at this. Overall, no matter which way we slice it, these new policies help underpin canola prices so long as the policy stays in place. We're going to have a higher low on our canola market going forward. But again, so long as those policies stay in place, whenever it's policy-driven demand, you never know what the next office is going to come in and change. That's my only concern.
Couldn't have said that better myself. That's bang on. Sorry, Shaun.
Yeah, and I wanted to add to what you said, Quick Dick. If you build, we've been able to get rid of the entire canola crop every year, whether it's exported to China or whatever. But when it's crushed locally, when you get those local crushers, when you spend $500 million or $1 billion on an asset, you tend to figure out a way to try and make sure it's running near capacity. And what that does, particularly if you're close to, Yorkton, for example, where we've had a massive expansion of domestic crush, and you look at it right now, I look at the bids in Yorkton and we got a 5 under basis, and then I look at the bids in somewhere else in the middle of Saskatchewan, not close to a crush plant, and it's a 60 under basis. So you want those guys to come in with those assets. And ultimately the whole crop was getting consumed before, but when we build those big refineries close, whether it's a crusher or in this case the Imperial Oil a renewable diesel facility that's going to be 1 million ton a year, or that is 1 million ton a year renewable diesel facility, they're going to make sure that crop gets consumed. They're going to work very hard to make sure that they're buying local product, and that really helps elevate boost the prices and particularly the basis levels, which a lot of people haven't been happy with basis levels. So you get those crushers come in, and now the renewable fuel guys, and that's super positive for basis as that expands.
What is the problem with basis? We're going to get to that. I know Ryan's got lots of thoughts, but guess what? Everyone knows Dallas said this Quick Dick snorkel must be patent pending. So you could probably sell them up in the north for a fair dollar there, and they might even be sold out already. So Bryce Eager, welcome. It's great to have you. And he says it's a feedstock. Feed a human, feed an animal, feed a fuel manufacturing facility. Sounds like it might rhyme enough to be getting close to country song territory.
Love it. We should put that on a t-shirt.
I like your T-shirt, by the way. Is that your concave of choice there? The Wilfong Enterprises there representing?
I was not paid by Wildfang Enterprises to represent these concaves, but we do happen to run them in all of our machines. So
Hard AF, I hear.
yeah.
You know,
Um,
on that food fuel side, just to add in here, just because we consume the oil as a fuel doesn't mean we wouldn't consume the meal in a feedstock. The meal goes into dairy feed, fantastic, all pile of other ones. So it doesn't necessarily mean canola or crushing it, everything's going to fuel. If that's what you're like driven on, a lot of it goes into animal feedstock. Right on, no problem.
well, and
Bang
doesn't
on.
canola make a better fuel than a lot of other oils?
Not sure better, but it's more
Jet fuel,
efficient.
jet fuel in particular. Go on there, quick, Dick. You got a point there.
Oh yeah, I don't have the specifics on that, but to Ryan's point on feedstock, yeah, you see it a lot in dairy. There's a lot of guys that are supplementing in cow-calf operations when you get down into the feedlot side of things in beef production, and you see it a lot on the pork side of things too. Like I mean, there's endless places where I can't remember who it was that said feedstock. Yeah, feed whatever you want with it, right? I mean, you get into the Chinese markets and some of these places, a lot of it goes to aquaculture, right? I mean, there's no reason we can't be doing the same thing around here too. There's just it's endless. It's a really versatile feedstock, and I think it's probably one of the greatest crops that's happened to Western Canada in probably the history of farming.
Darren Kennedy is saying, put the size of the diesel market into perspective. The USA uses 123 million gallons per day. This equates to 46.59 million bushels of canola per day, assuming 10 liters of biodiesel per bushel, or 1.05 million tons of canola seed per day. Per day. The market is massive.
Just the US, right?
Just the US. Yeah. Yeah, God bless America. Good old 250 there. So, any comments on like the size of the market? Like this sounds like a drop in the ocean. Is that a fair assumption?
Well, to make it simple, we just look at what the blend percentage is, right? So the biomass-based diesel, renewable diesel, and biodiesel is, I don't know, in Canada it's sub 10%, in the US same thing. So these huge consumption of vegetable oils for diesel is still less than 10% of the total consumption of diesel. So, if we really wanted to push things, we could easily use our entire vegetable oil production in North America, turning it into diesel.
If that refinery outside of Edmonton didn't exist, would we be even having this conversation? I was texting with Ryan Denis this morning. He said the farmers he knows around there are not talking about that plant at all. There's no talk of it. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on the massive size of the energy market. The US in their recent, like say, EPA registration of all the rules to be able to do this, essentially made canola the second best oil to be able to use within that process. If the US, got to full capacity on this, they don't have enough soybean oil in that country to be able to actually blend into all of their, mandated rules. So they need a whole bunch of other food stocks coming in. So whether it be canola oil, used tallow, used cooking oil from China, they actually can't consume enough. So it's a huge, again, underpinning on the canola market, other vegetable oils or greases, you name it. Same type of thing up here. Our actually issue in North America is we can't crush enough canola or soybeans to be able to fill their demand. So when we talk about putting up crush plants like, Dick was talking about here, we could put up double the amount of crush plants and it would consume our entire crop, but that's actually the bottleneck here in North America is how fast we can crush the seed to be able to make it into oil.
Anybody got a
So,
comment on that?
well, like capacity wise, I believe right now, just like I'm just speaking just within the province of Saskatchewan, we have the capacity to process 80% of our canola crop. But like Canada wide, like we export 90% of our canola crop. We export 3 times the amount of canola oil to the US than we actually use locally here. And like Ryan was saying, I mean, let's just it would be endless between Canada and the US with biofuels alone. I mean, we could technically use our entire canola crop and just use it right here in North America. I mean, it's probably never smart to have all your eggs in one basket, but we do have the capacity to be able to do it for growing it. But it's the processing part where we start getting bottlenecked. And you don't just find that in the canola market. You find that you're just talking about tallow, like you find that in the beef market as well. I mean, processing capacity is a really big thing, and that's where I think we're starting to see these big variations in commodity prices, be it canola, be it beef, be it anything. I mean, if you have to send it away somewhere else to get it processed, you are no longer in control of the price of it or what you have to buy it back at, right?
Isn't that a lot more of a concern in today's world, the way the politics have gone, where before it was 70 years of let's all get along, we're all really good friends, until somebody says, oh, we don't even need Kuma. We're good.
But it's just it's even neat with, like, when I was talking about messaging getting out of control. I mean, when you see there was some folks down in the US that were talking about completely replacing, canola oil in McDonald's restaurants with tallow. Well, like, does anybody understand you can't just say that and be like it's gonna happen and there's no problem? Like, are they holding some kind of strategic tallow reserve that I don't know about? Because our beef herd is at the lowest that it's been since the mid 70s, and to be able to replace the feedstock that canola oil provides just in the fast food restaurant industry alone, be it healthy or whatever, is completely off the table. It's just a matter of saying we're going to replace X with Y. It's physically impossible. I think there's a lot of people that just do not understand the size and the scope of some of the statements they make, right?
That tallow is like the gold at Fort Knox. It's all there. Trust us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Does it make more sense for us to make fuel out of canola, given the inputs, given our carbon footprint? I heard our carbon footprint is something we could sell all around the world, and we should be getting paid really handsomely for it.
Oh boy, I've got opinions on this. If any of you
Let's
guys want to
hear
go
this.
first.
Well, I mean, floor is open for fourth and favors of Bold and Brave.
I get really exhausted with everybody needing to use regenerative, low carbon, footprint this, footprint that. I think from a standpoint of a business perspective, you are going to be more carbon efficient and more carbon friendly and greener and have one of the lowest carbon footprint production operations on the planet if you just do business, because the numbers always work for this, right down to, from precision agriculture to quote unquote whatever you want to call regenerative farming, cycling cattle in and out. All of it sure like has some like onus that you can put into a conversation about how we're doing better for the environment. But we're like in Saskatchewan, we're 67% lower carbon footprint because of zero till when we do canola. But when you compare us to Europe, we're over 100% more efficient with producing the crops that we do. It's not because of any buzzwords that people use. It's because we're here to do business. And at the end of the day, this is $1 per acre business that we're running. And if you keep that $1 per acre putting more in your genes, it means that you're already going to be doing better to your land and to your soil and to everything. Because if you're farming for dollars per acre, that means you're not farming for this year, you're farming for 5 years down the road. And the sooner I could get all of these people to stop trying to use buzzwords about carbon and low carbon and carbon intensity and just be like, hey, we're actually just going to go out and do good business, I feel like we could all do a lot better.
Should we like tell Europe just to leave the farming to us? So we got this?
Sure, yeah. But they need to keep all their policies there where they belong as well.
Amen.
Oh, and even adding to what Dick was saying there, like if you look at like the 4R, that framework on, that they talk about and using it, a lot of it is about like decreasing volatilization and all these different type of like conservations of fertility. I don't know one farmer that's looking to waste fertility. I don't know one who doesn't want to cut back to produce the same or be as efficient as possible. So I don't think we can, to Dick's points here is like say take that, plop it on top of our current agronomy here. I think guys are doing a great job as it is, and the data would prove it. Can we get it more efficient? Yeah, we always should try to get more efficient, but by no means should we kick these guys to say they're inefficient. They're not. I don't know any guy who's wasting fertilizer, or at least not intentionally.
Yeah. That was on. So I did I'll finish it quick and then I'll shut up. But like it was one of my most largest viewed videos when they were trying to introduce 30% reduction in fertilizer in Canada under the Trudeau regime, and it's called the Canadian fertilizer ban is what I did. and try to tell everybody it's not a ban. They're looking for a 30% reduction. But the point that I try and make the videos that's what we're already doing. It's what we already do every day. And like what were you just saying? What you were just saying, Ryan, is like, does everybody think we're just a bunch of dealers out here trying to get canola and wheat and everything hooked on fertilizer? It will just give you a little taste for now, and then we're really going to hit you later with it. Like we're just blowing money if that's what we do. I mean, it's all about, you put down the groceries for what you want to grow. You don't want to put any more or any less than that. And if you have residual carryover next year, that's why we do soil testing. That's why we spend money doing all this different stuff, because you get return on that investment and it makes your farm more efficient, which automatically makes your farm more carbon friendly. It's like you chase your tail with a lot of this stuff with the talking heads, but it's a lot of people in high places that are trying to justify their job, saying the things that we need to change that are already being done before they try and justify their job.
Quick dig for Prime Minister, folks.
And rant.
Everyone knows Dallas. Everybody knows Dallas, especially when he shows up at Egg in Motion. People want to get his photo taken with him almost as much as Quick Dick. The winter/summer canola acres in the States is going up astronomically every year. So is that a factor? The Americans' production.
Yeah, I could talk a little bit on this one. Honestly, I think the U.S. winter canola future market is one of our biggest risks in Canada. So seed companies right now are trying to develop more robust winter canola genetics specifically for those Oklahoma winter wheat type of states in that area. And if they can add 3 to 5 million acres of winter canola in there, I am sure those growers down there that are getting beat up on winter wheat all the time would love to switch some acres over to winter canola. So let's say they could get up to 5 million acres. That could displace a lot of the Canadian oil demand into that US biofuel industry, which makes it even more important, in my opinion, that we build our own here in Canada to have our own blending capabilities instead of completely relying on that market once again.
Couple
Ryan,
things
would you
from
be able to speculate at all on canola crops starting to emerge out of Brazil, and if we're going to see some pressure out of that?
I would say this. I read probably 20 or 30 pages a day, and I haven't heard one line written about canola in Brazil or South America yet. So I'm not saying it's not happening. I just has not hit my radar on it. I hear more in the US. The biggest one I heard is that winter canola acre increase or the intention to increase it.
Okay.
Bryce Eager is saying, I like the and thinking. We have too much or thinking at times from our beloved industry. There might be a book somewhere in there. And he's also asking, does anyone have the provincial fuel standards handy? Marty Dalder, you have your hand up. Would you like to talk? I will let you talk if you want, but I know some folks hit that button accidentally and might find themselves thrust upon the internet unknowingly, publicly become famous. But I just want to double check if you're Marty Dalder going once, going twice. I'm going to allow you to talk. If you have something to share, go ahead. Bryce Eager saying some field testing of canola in Brazil. Go ahead, Marty. You're on live. Growing the future right now. You unmuted? Marty, did you have something to share there? Well, do you think we're going to see some crazy outcomes from this? We talked about what happened with corn. Are we going to go big? Are we going big here with the canola crop? Are we bullish? What does it mean for our beloved prairie provinces here? Who's sort of seeing the future on this? Who wants to weigh in on that?
Well, something I look at every day, and when you have, domestic demand for these oils increasing, I would just tell me there's going to be higher lows within the canola futures market. It doesn't mean that we're not going to have volatility. We go up and down all the time, but up until 2020, call it $500 a ton was a pretty high ceiling, was a kind of a pretty high watermark. Why couldn't our low mark be $700 a ton now going forward with these policies, so long as they stay in place, of course, again. Some people that I trust that I listen to in the US, they've already been saying that the cost to comply with some of these biofuel policies is already being brought up by lobbyists from some of these diesel blenders. So again, so long as that policy stays in place, I would have a hard time believing that we don't have a higher floor on our canola prices, which again probably entices 23 to 24 million acres again in the future. And I know farmers, they don't like throwing all the groceries down for it, but at least I can say in the marketing and the numbers I run with, canola was and still is the most profitable crop in all the matrix that we look at here. So I'd have a hard time thinking, guys like Dick and other guys that farm don't look at that and say, hey, how do I maximize these acres?
Yeah, when canola don't cash flow, then you see the whites of everybody's eyes there. I just wanted to launch this into a land bet too. I mean, obviously everybody's wondering what we're gonna have happen there, and we've got a land expert on the line here. Just so happens he's in the business, so he's traded a lot of canola, and now he's going to trade a lot of land in his lifetime. And if this story's even half right, what happens to the land? So fill your answers in there to fuel this conversation. Pardon that dad joke, if I may. I'm no quick dick, but
Dan, just leave the jokes to me, all right?
okay. Well, I can always open for you at the Roxy next time if you
all right,
need
yeah, you got
someone
a deal. Yeah.
I got
who's
a
willing
question.
to pay you.
I got a question for Dick on this one. You do a lot of good work. You speak politics. Obviously, you're well read on this stuff. I'm not sure if you get connected in with Eastern Canada much or people react to your stuff out there, but let's say we're doing these type of things in Western Canada and it's got a green fuel standard. Do you think that friendlies up Eastern Canada to what Western Canada is doing? Because I feel like at times politically, they think we're just throwing stuff in the air and hoping, how do I say, polluting and so forth. Do you think these type of things helps our message in Ottawa?
I would say no to that, Ryan. And I know a lot of people out in Eastern Canada. I'm going to Ontario here on Friday to go do a show in Lindsay, Ontario. One misconception I think people in Western Canada have about Eastern Canada is that we're very like-minded people, and there's a lot more agriculture that exists in Eastern Canada than a lot of people choose to either see or accept or even pay attention to or know about. And not knowing, you can't blame somebody for not knowing. But I mean, I was brought up the same way with the vision that Eastern Canada works against us. And the more people that I get to know out there, the more fundamentally incorrect I find that statement is. But I don't think there's anything that we can do for predominantly liberal voting country, and let's take the political parties out of it, but let's say environmentally driven country. The same thing that exists in Western Canada for our view of Eastern Canada exists in Eastern Canada for their view of Western Canada. And I don't think there's great advocates here in Western Canada, lots of different councils and advocacy groups that try and work and pound our message out to Ottawa and Eastern Canada saying that we're doing environmentally responsible things here. But again, it's all messaging and how it gets there. And it's a lot of stuff that falls flat on Easterners' ears that are trying to vote to keep control in Eastern Canada versus Western Canada because the message just doesn't get out there. And it's a shame. I sat next to a guy on a plane who was from Toronto. I was connecting from Louisville, Kentucky, and I was coming back from Toronto. I was flying from Toronto to Calgary, and this guy was clearly from downtown Toronto, working as a flight steward, and he was eating a pack of vegan jerky on the plane. I got into a conversation with the guy beside me because I was wearing a cowboy hat, go figure, about beef and the beef industry. And I started talking to him about the different grazing practices that we have here and how cattle are an integral part of our grain farm and how we can use a lot less fertilizer if we can strategically graze them, blah, 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 all the stuff. And this guy legit looked at me with almost tears in his eyes, saying, he's like, you mean cows are good for the ground? And I said, yeah, it's like we wouldn't be able to run our farm how we do without them. And he said, he looked at his vegan jerky and he said, I've just been told my whole life that they're bad and that I need to not eat beef. He's like, how can I help? I said, just replace that with actual beef jerky and you'll be helping. Go have a burger when you get home tonight. I mean, do whatever you want to do for dietary restrictions that you have going on. But if you want to support an industry, just use the product that they produce. And we produce beef, we produce crops. And like, that's one person out of how many tens of millions that live in GTA that vote for a lot of these different environmental policies that can really, really harm us out in Western Canada. I think as Canadians, nobody in this country has ill will towards anybody else. It's just a lot of messaging that sends us down these rabbit holes. And it's an unfortunate product of the internet. Here we are on the internet trying to make things better. But I mean, like, reciprocally, there's somebody working on the internet against what we're trying to do here right now today, so I think the internet's going to be one of the most challenging things for us to conquer as an industry, saying that, hey, we're not doing things bad. Sorry, that was a long answer.
I'm going to put a link in the chat if you want to donate to Quick Dick's Air Miles so we can get him to fly more, so more people eat beef, so land values go up. I'd appreciate that. Shaun, what are you? I'm going to share the results here. Little Gallup poll here. 21% is saying buy more land right now before everyone else catches on. Hold on to what you got and wait it out 50%. And 30% said I don't own land, so not just here for the argument. But are you thinking of a trickle-down effect? What are you seeing for the economy? You're in land. You understand this canola business. How is it all connected? Give us the big picture.
I'd also love to hear Shaun's take on the Bonnett deal there, too, if you can get to it.
Wow, Humzinger coming in here, coming in hot at the Q4.
I'll offer a general perspective on land. I think that farmland is a great long-term investment. And even with the doubling of price in the last 5 years, I still think it's a great long-term investment. If you've got a generational perspective, if you have a plan of what you want to leave to your kids and your legacy, etc., it's a fantastic investment. It's, the short-term nuances are a little more difficult to figure out, and it really comes down to every situation. And when you've got people talking about you can get yourself into trouble if you take on too much debt. I actually had a banker friend of mine yesterday that asked me the question, and now he's a commercial banker, he's not a farm banker, but he's like, well, if you buy farmland now at these prices, stuff around Regina at $8,000 an acre, will it pay for itself? I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean? You're going to debt finance 100% of it? If you're going to debt finance 100% of it and buy all your equipment today, you're going to have a tough time making those 4.5% interest payments on $8,000 an acre. But as part of an overall business where you're putting up cash, etc., yeah, I mean, it's working for people, and I guess the canola versus everything else, canola's been positive for a while, right? Like if you look at a lot of the farmers that are buying farmland now and buying without using a lot of debt to buy it, a lot of that money was generated with the canola that went to $20+ a bushel a few years ago, right? Or that received crop insurance payouts when it was being calculated against $20 a bushel canola. So it's sort of, that eastern Saskatchewan, there has been a lot of interest in canola land over the last few years. I don't actually see, I think one of the questions was, is there sort of more of a shift to interest in canola land? I think, man, it seems we've turned the tide, at least for the short term, with that dry Southwest that has been, it's not dry now. Like if you take, there's nowhere in Saskatchewan that I'm aware of that is dry. And, if you can get decent yields, you can make money at current cereal grain prices, at current durum prices. So I don't know. I'm kind of positive things. Yeah, and regarding the Bonnett stuff, I'm representing some Bonnett land right now, so I'll just talk in general about land values. I think it's a good long-term investment. That's my sort of take on farmland.
Okay, well, we're gonna go around the horn on the Bonnett question because I think people are interested. But Marty Dalder is also saying canola production is expanding in South America, but not significant yet. So we may have some more competitors. I think it currently adds up to about 1 million tons of production for all of South America. And so I wanted to ask you, Quick Dick, what's your take on Bonnett?
Well, I'll go on a broader spectrum here. And Shaun, that was really clever sidestep of the Bonnett question there. Well done. Yeah. There's a few big investors. Okay, Bonnett's one of them. We've got Angelic. There's a lot of different land investors that are kicking around, and I think the one thing that's been challenging for a younger guy, that's still trying to acquire acres. There's a lot of these purchases that go on. There's some obviously larger farms that do the same thing as well. You start getting land in blocks, and then you can kind of slowly, by purchasing land for X amount of dollars, you can inflate the value of the land that you already have with the surrounding land. I get it, it's business, and this is kind of how it works, and it turns into a game of who can put up the most capital. It makes it really tough for anybody trying to get into the game or be a part of the game or try and expand their business a little bit to try and keep up with it, right? So I don't know if there's a solution to it or not, but I hate seeing this come to fruition where all of a sudden you see some of these businesses that are doing some of these big land acquisitions, and you start looking at your capital versus what you have borrowed versus what you have for land. You start questioning, okay, what banks are backing this and saying this is okay to keep doing? Because I know when I go to my bank, they're going to look at a situation like that and be like, absolutely not. And like, does this boil down to maybe a little bit of a financing regime that we have that we need to get a little more under control here in Canada? Do we have to look at foreign land investment a little more? I know the Saskatchewan government will tell you repeatedly that they've done multiple probes into this and that there's none of it going on here in Saskatchewan. Depending on who you talk to, you find out pretty fast that that's not the case. So I don't know. I think we just need to handle land acquisitions very carefully and make sure that we don't let people get too big for the food. It's not that we should go in and control capitalist markets at all, but we just need to have a bigger mindset of what's happening and what are we doing to other farms when we do this stuff, and what's going to be the end result of it all. I'm not saying that we need to price things and have a land commission like we have a dairy commission in Canada. I shouldn't have said the word dairy, but here we are. And it's just, we just got to be careful with all this stuff. And I feel like if you get too many people in high places making decisions that are going to benefit them and not the province of Saskatchewan or the country of Canada, I think that's where we start having some real big issues in these areas.
Did you tell them that they could take away?
Enough.
Yeah, no, that was super broad as well. Did you tell them they could have blue balls for collateral if you couldn't make your covenants, or?
You can't even put a value on blue ball. I was actually just talking with Mark, the guy that I farm with here, is like, now that he's a part of my channel, I mean, even if that truck completely blows up and the numbers don't add up to rebuild it and fix it, we're going to have to do it anyways, right?
It's an enigma for sure. So, folks, share with us what your biggest takeaway was today. Is there anything that I should have asked that I didn't? Lots of smart people on the call. Hopefully this is really good news for our industry. Canola is the cash crop. More places for it to go is great. I was surprised to hear that folks in the area of Strathcona there weren't talking about it as big news. But hey, demand is good for the stuff that we do and we grow. Share that with us. Final thoughts. I guess we'll go around the horn. I guess we'll maybe start with Ryan and then talk to Quick, and then we'll hear from Shaun. He was the guy who inspired this whole conversation. So let's go Ryan, Quick, and then Shaun, and we'll wrap her up.
Yeah, in terms of like, say, domestic consumption of grain and overall farm, viability, profitability, these biofuel policies are bang on what we need. I think we do need to do more processing at home. I mean, I've been a proponent for that, on that for years. I don't think that's a novel, position by any means, but I do think this is very positive. I don't think anybody should get caught up on whether it's used for food or fuel. We're indifferent where it goes. It's value added in one way, shape, or form. So I'm all for it. Let's expand the economy. Let's keep this thing going. I'm good on that.
Quick.
Yeah. Words right out of my mouth. I just want to thank Ryan and Shaun for obviously your takes on everything here, and Dan, thanks for the invite to come and do this. The only thing I'd want to leave with is just whether you're a producer or whether you're dealing with with people that are buying groceries that participate in the food market here in Canada. It's really important to make sure that we do our best to understand as producers where our product goes. You'd be surprised how many farmers and larger producers you talk to that they check out once their product has gone to the elevator or the crusher or wherever it's going. It's really important to make sure that we stay focused on the downstream things, because what you're talking about, guys in Alberta, not talking about this new biodiesel plant that's coming on, it's because probably a lot of them have checked out. Once their crop's gone, it's gone. I got my money and I don't care where it's going. So we just need to be more aware of that and do what you can to be friendly to people who are not producers, that are consumers of food and product, and just try and show the positive side of what we do and try and help fight that narrative that exists out there that we're killing the planet, because we're doing the exact opposite of it, right?
Well said, my friend. Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. And Shaun, you were the fellow that inspired this conversation. You get to bring it home for us. What's your final thoughts?
Well, my final thoughts are that things are positive. Ryan is correct that it's a tough one when we talk about renewable fuels because it's based on legislation, and if economics get bad and the price of crude oil goes down more, that makes it that much more difficult. But my expectation is that these increased renewable fuel mandates in the US will follow through into 2027, I think. And overall, there's just a trend in the positive direction, right? I see a lot of positives. I'm gonna say I'm glass half full with regards to Canadian agriculture. The dry areas of Western Canada finally have rain, and I'm thinking they're going to have a decent crop. And the canola guys are probably going to have some pretty good opportunity to sell, decent canola prices and make money. And yeah, just plan for the long term, and I think there's a lot of opportunity.
Things are looking good out there. I'm excited to head to Ag in Motion and see the crops out there and see everybody in person. Are you guys all going to Ag in Motion? Are we all going to
Yes,
see
sir.
each other there in the beer gardens there? Awesome. And Field of Stars, I'm going to be at Field of Stars. I encourage everybody to get their tickets this year. That's an incredible gathering for the community. We had some feedback here saying, hey, we need to increase biodiesel. It's an education on the whole canola situation, and the amount of biofuel usage that is happening and is expanding is a big opportunity. So I definitely feel more enlightened. I honestly didn't really know this was happening. It sounds to me maybe some farmers didn't know this was happening, and we want to have some good news in the industry because we could use that to keep our chins up in all the challenges that go on. So thank you. All of you were incredibly articulate, and you did a great job today. I'm proud of you. Thanks to the studio audience for coming on and the folks on YouTube. Thanks for all the sponsors making this possible. And we're going to see you all at Ag in Motion very shortly. So have a great week. It feels like lots of people are taking some time with family at the lake. It's lake time. So enjoy, and we'll see you around the rodeo soon. Thanks.